Hey, family and friends, Pastor Rob here at Community Church, CBC. I'm glad we have this time together, and I hope you'll share with others who would really benefit from having a daily Bible reading Monday through Friday to help just encourage their own walk with God and to draw close to Jesus. So you can always, send the link or tell someone, hey, go to our website and sign up, findcommunity.com. So you probably know we're in a series that's so important as we look at the Beatitudes, and the series called Happy. Because over and over, Jesus again says happy, happy, blessed, blessed are those who. And it's a vision of what it looks like to live in his kingdom, to do life differently. And so this week, it says, happy are the hungry and thirsty is where we're taking this, hungry and thirsty. And the way Jesus said it in the NIV here, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. So blessed are the hungry and thirsty for what? For righteousness. For righteousness. And our verse today for our daily Bible reading is 1 Corinthians 5:21. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. Let's read it again and just think about a few of those words. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that we might become the righteousness of God. Well, a couple words may stand out in the contrast. The word sin and the word righteousness. And they go together. Because in our sin, we need righteousness. And when we are righteous, it's because the sin issue has been and is being addressed. And of course, it's a reminder of why we can even find life in Jesus, because God made him who had no sin. Who's that? That's our Savior, the sinless Savior. But he took on our sin. He absorbed all the sins when he died on the cross. Why? So that could be taken care of in terms of the guilt and the payment of sin. So we might become, he says, the righteousness of God. Now, a word about righteousness, it's not used a lot today, obviously. But it is a word, if you just boil it down to the simplest word, like in the word righteousness, or righteous is the word right, which is actually a word that speaks to trueness, to wholeness, to goodness. It's like to be right with God. If you've ever had a friendship where you've gone sideways or there's been some hurt, and you work things through and you talk and you make things right, and it's worth it because you value that friendship. Or if you're married and you've had a huge blow up and you want things to be made right. Well, if we kind of carry it forward in this kind of relational sense, we need to be made right with God. A few weeks ago, we talked about even how we're dead in our transgressions and sin. We need to be made alive, and so we need righteousness. So I wonder, do you hunger for righteousness? So this is important to realize. It's not just I'm made righteous for heaven, like, okay, God sees me and I'm made right for heaven. That's true. But this is an ongoing journey for us. So whether you've been a Christian a week or 50 years or 80, whatever, 10, 20 years, God is always calling us to look at the rightness or the things that are out of alignment in our lives. And that means paying attention to this issue of sin in our life. What does sin look like in our life these days? I heard a really fascinating story by pastor and writer Tim Keller, and he talked about how they captured one of the masterminds of the Nazi war machines and all the genocide they did. His name was Adolf Eichmann. And in 1961, so he'd been on the hide for over 15 years, whatever. They catch him, and they eventually bring him to trial in 1961 for his crimes against humanity. And they actually brought in a Nazi camp survivor, a Jewish man, and I think his name was pronounced Yahil Denur. And he came to testify. So he's in the courtroom as a witness, and they bring in the war criminal Adolf Eichmann. And when Yahil saw him, he just fell on the floor and broke out in crying and wailing. And it, shocked everybody. Well, fast forward to 1983. So for some of you weren't born then. For others of us, we can remember this that era pretty clearly. And the ever popular 60 Minutes, Mike Wallace is interviewing this this concentration camp survivor, Yehiel Danur. And Mike Wallace asks him and shows him the film footage from 1961 when he actually fell down crying and weeping when he saw the SS officer brought into court. And so Wallace asked him, well, why did that happen? Were you just taken back by your hatred for him or your fear of what he did to so many Jews? Why the wailing in the courtroom when you were just caught so raw in that emotion? And Yehiel said, no. When I looked at him, he said, I did not see a demon or some horrible person. More than that, he said, I just saw a normal human, knowing that that could have been me. That the evils that he did could have been any one of us. And that's what caught the witness's heart. When I heard that story, as you can probably imagine, it just reminds me of the ongoing sin that resides in all of us and the propensity we all have to drift, to think, and to do things that are displeasing to God. So when Jesus says, happy are the hungry and thirsty, for those who thirst for righteousness, friends, this is getting at the core of what it means to follow God. Do you want to keep following him? Do you want to keep addressing these root sins, and sometimes we call it the false self inside of us, or the dark side? Because it's still there, isn't it? Even St. Francis, before he was a saint, of course, then they wanted to, raise him up. He said, don't canonize me yet. He goes, I can still father a child, like he just knew there's always temptation lurking. So, how's the Lord speaking to your heart these days? Where is he giving you greater hunger and thirst? And that's the place perhaps to start. More than thinking about even areas of sin, because that can sometimes become just sin management. God, give me heart and desire to hunger and thirst after you. That's what the Lord desires for all of us. Happy are those who hunger and thirst. Have a great day, my friends. Look forward to seeing you this Sunday.